Welcome to the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And now, your host, Heather Newman.
Hello again, everyone. Here we are with another episode of the Mavens Do It Better podcast, where we interview extraordinary experts who bring a light to our world, where we talk a little bit of tech, we talk brand, origin stories of what makes our Mavens tick. So today, I'm very excited to have on Nicole Butler. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm amazing. Thanks for having me on.
Wonderful. Well, Nicole is the founder and executive director for Speech Within Reach here in Los Angeles, California, and she is amazing. And she does that, but you're also you're board certified. You're an actor. You're a mountain climber. There's so many things I could list after this. You're pretty amazing.
Hey, girl, you are too.
Awesome. Yeah. Nicole and I caught up at a Dodgers game a while back. It was my first, but I think it was the first time that any of us had stepped on the field, actually. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was the first time I've been on any baseball field. Well, Major League, that is.
Yeah, right. So that was super fun, and it was so fun to meet you and get to know you a little bit more after that. And everyone, so Nicole has this great, wonderful organization that she founded, and I'd love for everybody to know a little bit more about Speech Within Reach and where that came about. So will you tell everybody about your beautiful business? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Yeah,
Sure.
So Speech Within Reach is we do home-based speech therapy services for children. So we drive to them, which is a big thing, especially in Los Angeles. The last thing people want to do is get in their car and drive somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And because we go in the family's home, we're able to set up, specialize the program to cater to whatever the children's specific needs are. So if you're going to a clinic and your child is needing speech therapy services, it's just 1 time a week or 3 times a week. They're only exposed to whatever items or objects are in that room. So they're playing with, a puzzle with farm animals or whatever. But when you go in the home, we get to learn, the dog's name is Oreo, and the brother and sister's names, and we get to know what objects and toys that they love when they're at home.
Right.
So we can focus the words and vocabulary building around things that they're around more often.
Mm-hmm.
And we can, it helps with carryover as well, because at the end of our sessions, we like to communicate with the guardian and relay anything so that they can use what's in the home to carry over the therapy.
Wow, that's super cool. And so, what ages are you dealing with?
Well, we're birth to 18,
Wow.
but the majority of the children that we work with are, I would say, between 2 and 8.
Gotcha. Wow, that's amazing. And so, you board certified and speech language pathologist, which
I know it's funny, pathologist. It sounds like it sounds so intense, like pathologist. It's a speech therapist and a speech language pathologist is exactly the same thing.
Gotcha.
It's just terms that they decided to use.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, if you're board certified, that means you have your national certification and you did a fellowship. And you were supervised as well as having your master's degree.
Right.
And, and you're usually state licensed as well.
Yeah. And you went to Purdue, which, I'm from the Midwest as well. And a lot of my family went there. So go Boilermakers. And then,
Boiler up.
Yep. Boiler up. Yes. And then, NYU. So you've been pursuing this a long time. What's the origin story? How did this spark happen with you?
Sure. So my mother is a therapist, and growing up, I always was fascinated, why people do things that they do. So I was always pretty intuitive and an empath as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that started it. But then I also loved babysitting kids. I was like the neighborhood's favorite babysitter. and then I remember I became best friends with a girl who was deaf. She was hearing impaired, but so she had hearing aids, but it still was difficult for her. She struggled, and so she was fluent in sign language. And I remember her and I were at a gas station, getting candy, and she was trying to communicate to the man behind the counter, and he kind of was ignoring her and just asking me questions and not making an attempt to communicate with her. And I saw her get so frustrated, and that was sort of a moment for me that I realized how important communication is. And I learned sign language because of her, and this was in like 7th grade or so. And so that's kind of started all of it. And then I just became fascinated with the whole field once I learned more about it.
Yeah. Well, and communication on all levels, you know, with your this beautiful business helping children, and then also theater and improv and all of that. So, you know, a grand communicator on so many levels as an artist. We talk about that side too. I know you've been really active in that for a long time. And so where did that start?
Well, yeah, so I always like kind of being the goofy, like one with my friends and entertaining. And I took acting classes when I was younger. And when I really decided I was really passionate about it, it was when I was taking improv and sketch comedy classes. And I just remember looking forward to the class and having such a blast, and just, you know, getting to be creative too, because with improv you have to think, you know, on your feet. And I took classes when I was younger, and then that just continued while I was in grad school in New York. Same thing when I was in Chicago. I did Second City and Improv Olympic. And then when I moved to LA, I did Groundlings and Upright Citizens Brigade. But I started booking work, you know, doing goofy, like first it was like commercials, and then I booked Kelsey Grammer's show Boss, you know, doing some drama stuff. And it just kind of snowballed for them. And then I played Melania Trump on Jimmy Kimmel, and also played like a double agent on NCIS. So the drama, there's so many more drama shows than there are comedy. There's just so much more opportunities, but comedy is definitely like my passion.
That's so cool. Yeah, I loved the Second City growing up outside Chicago. So yeah, Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois for me were growing up. So I sort of know a lot of those places that you've said. That's so cool. Yeah. How do you find sort of Los Angeles, you know, for all of that? You know, people, you know, you've lived in and sort of worked in all the big cities and the Third Coast, you know, Chicago. How do they compare as far as getting work? And it sounds like you've kind of been doing it over time too, but did you find that there was any city that had sort of more appeal for you, or?
Yeah, I'd say New York and Chicago are more theater type communities. And there's not really a shortage here in Los Angeles for actors, that's for sure. We're sort of inundated. But there's just a lot more work here. There's actually a lot of work here, and as well in Atlanta, like in the Southeast. And they actually have more shows, TV and movies, than New York now. Wow. But New York still has great work. The communities are just so different. The thing that I miss about New York is you can walk everywhere, and there's a little bit more sense of community here, because you're driving, people a little more isolated. But yeah, I feel like the market here is more, theater is not the push. It's definitely TV and film. Yeah,
absolutely. And so much, I think, like voiceover work, voice acting work, that seems to be so much of that. But you can kind of be anywhere for that, you know, but it's making those connections, I think, maybe, that are here.
Yeah, exactly. Voiceover work you can do in your closet, you know, quality. I've seen people do it. That's their setup is in the closet. They're like, it's padded, you know, perfect for sound.
Right.
And then even with auditions for TV and film, you don't have to live in Los Angeles necessarily. I know when I auditioned for shows on the East Coast, I tape them. I just record them on my iPhone and send them to them. So I don't have to show, everything is becoming, digital. So.
Wow. I think at some point we're going to be, sending in audition tapes via TikTok, I mean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I love TikTok. It's so entertaining. It's like the big thing right now.
Yeah.
I don't have an account yet. Do you?
I downloaded it, I think, a while ago. But I was watching, I saw a tweet from Gary Vee, and I was like, oh, and I was like, and so I actually played on it last night, got an account, and Yeah, it definitely will suck your time. But you know, there's an audience on there, and I just couldn't believe like the millions of people that are viewing this stuff. You know.
I know. That's what's in. Well, and Gary, it's funny you say Gary Vee, because that's how I learned about it, because he was saying that it's the next, Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's that sort of age range. I saw something the other day, and I was thinking about you. I posted it on Facebook, and it was about Generation Alpha. And I hadn't heard that term before. And it was talking about kids that are sort of in that 8 to 10-year-old, that sort of space and generation, and talking about how they're going to be the most, computer literate, the most digital literate, probably the most wealthy, actually, and that there are influencers now that are 10 years old. There's one kid who's got, 2 million followers on YouTube, and a toy company has picked him up, and he's going to create toys he was doing reviews of toys just as a kid.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it's amazing how many, just those basic, I know my friend with her little one, he's like 6 months, or he still watches it from the time he was 6 months till now he's 2. But it's just like, it's like someone showing a toy, and it's just like an object, and they're like, truck. Yep. Here's the truck. Yeah. And then they're like, car. Here's it's so basic, but it has so many views. Right. I do wonder with that generation, just as a speech therapist, because because I work a lot with social skills. I work with autism and children that are trying to have appropriate social skills, or learn how to make friends. And I wonder how it will be when they actually interact with a person. If you're, I'm just curious how that will evolve, because you have a different, skill set with interacting through a computer or through a phone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think now these days, we talk about, ghosting, and there's just all of sort of the dopamine rushes and the serotonin, like all of that stuff that we get from people liking things and all of that. And people don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Like to pick up a phone and to call somebody. I have called somebody in the last few, and every time they've been like, "Did you butt dial me?" And I was like, "No."
No, I called you. Oh, that's funny.
My
one of my single friends was out with his guy friends, and he was saying, and these guys are like in their 20s, like 25 to 30, and he was saying that he's like, and he's 10 years older than them, and he was like, we're out, and I'm like, are we going to meet girls? Are we going to go talk to girls? And they're like, no, that's what Tinder and Bumble, like we don't, we can just meet someone, like if we want right now, like they'll show up, but they don't have the interest even.
Wow. Yeah. That's,
and I don't know if that's generalized everywhere, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that there is something to that for sure. I think going out, people like want to hang with their friends, and they're not going out like I think maybe I used to, when I was in my 20s to meet people, or I know it's kind of weird because you can just do it on an app, right?
Right, and they'll be there.
Do you use technology in what you do with the kids, or is it more toys?
So it depends. Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, it depends. So it depends on the need. So if a child, like for example, like I work sometimes with a school here and see some of the kids, and they have a lot of deaf and hearing impaired children, and so they, with cochlear implants, a lot of the children are cochlear implants or they have hearing aids. Okay. And so cochlear implant is a pretty invasive procedure, but pretty incredible in that it goes in, they are actually drilling through the skull. It sounds very kind of less intense, but they are putting a wire that goes through the cilia, like this, like the little snail shell inside of your ear. And this wire stimulates your hair, cilia, and so it stimulates it, and then they put this like little magnet on top of the skull. It's like a little magnet. It's like looks like a little button, and it activates it, stimulates it. Wow. And then they have hearing, and my understanding is that the hearing is similar to, they say people that have once had hearing and then lost it and then had a cochlear implant or are saying that it sounds kind of tinny, like it's a little bit different, but it's pretty amazing that they can be profoundly deaf and be able to hear. And of course, not everyone qualifies for it. It depends, just like with LASIK surgery or something. But so we use technology that way, and then Oh, actually, I have kind of a funny story. I have a girl that when she's now 13. She has cochlear implants. And I've seen her for 6 years or so, and I'm just consulting and doing checkups on her every couple of years. And when she's mad at her parents, because now she's a teenager, she just closes her eyes and takes off her cochlear implants. So she can't hear them, and she has total control. She can't see or hear them.
I think my father at 75 does that with my mom. So
Fair enough. Yeah.
And lots of people,
so to speak.
Yeah, lots of people's parents I see do that. Sometimes you'll see them pull the hearing aid out. But yeah, oh wow, that's wild.
Another technology that is used is children, like for example, you have cerebral palsy and they're not able to verbalize or talk at all, or when children are nonverbal, they'll have machines, or now it's basically just a computer that they talk through, if it's an iPad,
right?
Or like Stephen Hawking, he has a communication device. So the technology in that is pretty amazing now.
Wow. Yeah, no, I saw it. You probably have experienced this many times, but there was a internet meme going around of young kids, and it was one of someone hearing their sister or their mother's voice for the first time. Oh,
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it happen. It is pretty amazing.
Oh, that's, yeah.
There used to be an old thought to that was, I think it's called Sound and Fury, I think. And this is kind of the 80s, 90s thought for people that were deaf and hearing impaired, is that they did not want to hear because they were very proud that their child also was deaf. There's a strong genetic link. That if you're profoundly deaf, that your child will be, depending, of course, on the cause of the impairment. But so they were very proud that they were deaf, and they wouldn't have their children implanted. And it was kind of a big divide when cochlear implants started becoming more common. And so a lot of kids didn't get implanted because of that. And it's just sort of interesting. They see it as, well, we're hearing impaired, but our other senses are heightened, so their visual skills are off the charts. They can, and I used to work at a deaf school in Chicago, and I remember when I come into the classroom, there was a couple kids, and if they weren't even facing me, they knew I was there. They would wave and say, Miss Nicole, not even looking at me. They knew I walked into the room.
Wow.
They could just sense me, which I don't know if everyone can, but so there's certain, if you're not using a sense, other sense, you use other areas that are more heightened, so.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for that. I'd not heard of that implant before. That's really, really interesting. I figured that, you use many different methodologies for what you do, but I like to sort of dig into the tech too, because I find that super interesting. Yeah, and, I know you are a busy lady, and, for you, how do you get clients? Is it mostly referral, or is it word of mouth, or...
it's referral mostly, but I mean, I have a Yelp account for Speech Within Reach, and so I get those calls. Sometimes, though, with Yelp, what I've found is that they'll be so far away, they'll be they're not even in Los Angeles area.
Sure.
So, but I have other speech therapists, and so they are able to, possibly see them. So it just kind of depends. But referral really seems to be the best. And the schools now know, different schools know me very well, and hospitals and pediatricians and developmental, psychologists. So I think referral seems to be the best for my business. If you get injured or you have something medically wrong, you usually want a personal referral.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when it comes to your children.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes sense. The word of mouth, that your customers become part of, your family and just like you said, you probably work with people a very long time and kids a long time as well. So that's how many kids do you think you've seen over the course of the business?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I would like to try to figure that out.
Yeah.
Because it's how many lives have you affected?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably actually name them all at some point. I would like to kind of just think about that. I think that's so funny. Yeah, I don't know a lot.
Yeah. A lot. Yeah. Well, maybe I think you have 10-year anniversary coming up soon. Maybe that's something that you could do for that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be.
Why not?
Yeah, because I've been doing it since undergrad.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Well,
you start seeing kids then, and then grad school you are working with patients.
oh gosh, so it's much longer than that, right? Wow.
Oh yeah, much longer. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. The business has been present here in
Oh,
LA.
speech within reach.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
10 years.
But you've been doing this a long time. Yeah, and it's it's like we don't always realize or remember. I think that one, the pebble, the one thing, it's like it's not only the child, but it's the parents, and it's the aunts and uncles, and it's the friends, and it's the so it's like times 300 for you, on
Right.
anybody when you think about it. It's just so cool. I just think what you do is so neat, and yeah, I love it. Yeah, so thank you for doing that in the world.
Yeah.
It's super
you're
important. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Yay.
I love it.
And you are busy. You've got clients and all of that in a life and everything. So, what are some of your passions outside of work? I know that I said talked about mountain climbing. I know there's a bit of a story there, and will you share some of that with us as well?
Yeah, I love hiking. I summited Kilimanjaro for a nonprofit. I love nonprofit. So, I summited Mount Kilimanjaro and raised $50,000 for the nonprofit No Limits for Deaf Children.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
I helped start a nonprofit, reinvigorated it, called Child Success Foundations for families that can't afford speech therapy, occupational therapy, and educational therapy.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Gardner is our spokesperson, which is very exciting.
Cool.
She's great. And let's see. I love being outdoors, and I love animals. I volunteer at different shelters. I love all animals.
Yeah, and you have there's a kitten running around there today, huh?
Yeah, I rescued a kitten. I rescued a kitten and her mom.
Aw.
Which has been a big change, but amazing. They're so loving and sweet.
Yeah.
I love traveling. I went to, I've lived in London and Sweden, and this year I went to Croatia and Italy, and I've been to India. I went to India for a nonprofit called Leading India's Future Today, and been to Africa, to 4 countries in Africa. I've been to Thailand and Korea. I love traveling.
Yay.
I get so excited about it. There's just so much to see and do.
I hear you.
And eat.
and eat for sure. I'm a traveler too, as you know. So yeah, it's a cool thing to do. And so will you tell everybody your story about your summit? I find that so interesting.
Oh girl, yeah. That's a thing story. So I summited Mount Kilimanjaro, and I got HACE, which is high altitude cerebral edema, which is what most people on Everest end up dying from. So once you get it, you die you go into a coma within 24 to 48 hours, and you die typically. And so we did a 5-day route on Kilimanjaro, and Kilimanjaro, it starts out, you're in a rainforest, and you go up on the top is a glacier. So it's freezing when you get on top.
Right.
But, nobody knew that's what I had. I was just kind of toughing it out. And, the symptoms, I was at the summit. So the symptoms are similar to a stroke. You have slurred speech, you can't walk straight. And then had all the altitude symptoms like bloody nose and vomiting, all the gross stuff.
Yep.
But no one really realized it until the summit, and then it was sort of a panic to get me down.
Yeah.
And I was blacked out. I don't remember most of it, unfortunately.
Wow.
And so they had to get me down to base camp. So Kilimanjaro is around 20,000 altitude, and we had to get down to 17,500.
Wow.
And they got me there, and they gave me dexamethasone, which it's a strong steroid, and that really helped.
Yeah.
That helped me at least not have brain damage.
Right.
They pretty sure that would have happened. And then I had to be taken down in a gurney, and to get down from Kilimanjaro on a gurney took like 20 hours, and that was 4 men. It's a third world country, so there's not just a helicopter that's going to come pick you up. So it was about 4 guys, and just a gurney just taking me down the mountain. And I don't remember till we were probably like 5,000 feet. I started coming to and realizing what had happened, and what the heck, you
Yeah,
know?
that's
So, and then I got down to the hospital. Kilimanjaro starts, it's the highest freestanding mountain, so you go down to sea level. And my parents were at a hospital. They met me. They were at safari, so they met me. And
oh my goodness, wow.
yeah, I guess after that, I just like had a bad concussion.
Yeah.
I just had the treatments are getting out of altitude and dexamethasone. So.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, to summit is one thing, and that is. I mean, did you get a chance to go yay, or was this all happening? You know what I mean? Like, did you get a chance to be like, I'm on the top of the world, or you know?
I mean, probably not a solid one. No,
Yeah,
probably
right.
not a solid one. And
Yeah.
I have no intention of getting one.
Yeah.
I'm okay with not going back.
You
ever.
did it. I think no.
Yeah, right.
You did it, and you did it. Yeah. I mean, that's so wild, and thank goodness for those wonderful people who, you know, took care of you and got you down and quickly and all of that. When you know, it's like so many things can go wrong, and maybe you don't have this or have that or whatever, and you know, that's just. I'm glad you're here. So.
Thanks. Me too.
Literally. Yeah. No kidding.
We couldn't have gone on the Dodgers field.
I know.
I mean, you know.
We couldn't have. That is true. That's true.
Yeah.
You mentioned your folks. Where did you grow up?
So I'm from Illinois, from a small town of like 5,000, and my cousins have a pumpkin patch near there. So this is pumpkin season right now. It's a really fun time to be there.
Nice. Let's give them a shout out. What's the patch called?
It's called the Great Pumpkin Patch.
Oh.
And their Instagram is the 200 acres.
Wow, that's so cool. I haven't been yet. Do you have a pumpkin?
I do have a pumpkin, not from there because they're in Illinois,
Yeah.
but they have like the bougie of pumpkin patches. Like Martha Stewart came there
What?
like a couple years. Yeah, and they were invited on the show because they have these rare varieties. They've traveled all around the world. So they have like pumpkin and squash from like France and from Africa and from India and from actually almost pretty much every country in the world. And they have, you know, like the bumpy weird ones or like the white one, you know, all the different funky ones.
How cool.
So they were on her show. And then they got asked to decorate the White House when Obama was president, and they decorated like the Capitol and
wow.
state. Yeah. It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, no kidding. And say the Instagram again.
The 100 acres. Let me make sure that's right.
The 100 acres. All right, we'll stick it in the show notes for sure. But
oh, sorry, that's 200. Let me see.
the 200 acres. I love it. It's like
That's 200 acres.
the
That's
200
what it is.
acres. Okay, cool. What a perfect pre-Halloween extravaganza. That's so cool. That's your family. That's so
Yeah, those are my peeps.
Those are your peeps for sure. Oh, that's great. Wow, that's cool. You know, I always ask everyone. My ending question is always, if you would share with us something in your life that sparked you, a person, place, thing, moment that really brought you here today. And I know that's a hard one to say one, and lots of people say one, or sometimes people say more than that, or something that you kind of go, you know, yeah, this is the thing that sort of puts me and seats me right where I am today. If you would share that with our listeners.
Yeah, I'd say, gosh, I think a lot of who I am is because of my parents. Not maybe that's so obvious, but they're like Midwest, grounded, rooted, good people. But my mom is very always been curious. She loves like traveling and like adventure and. You know, and she's a super empath and loves helping people. So I think that's why I got into speech therapy and why I'm curious about the world and traveling and why I like love like laughing. My parents, like that's they say their secret to marriage. They've been married 40 or so years, 42 years, and they say the secret is that they laugh and make each other laugh every day. So yeah, I'd say that's a good combination of
absolutely
how I became
surrounded by laughter and curiosity. That does not suck.
Yeah, lots of love.
Lots of love. So awesome. And so when folks are interested in hearing more about Speech Within Reach, we'll put all the ways to connect with Nicole and that organization and her nonprofit in the show notes. So yeah, I love talking to you, and it was so great to meet you at the Dodgers game and now know you. But that's been a while, so.
You too. We got to catch up.
I know, absolutely. That sounds great. Well, and you know, for just in general, one tip about just running a business. I mean, you've been running a business for a while. Is something that really says, if you don't remember anything else or you don't do anything else, maybe this one thing about running a business.
Yeah, I think you have to be passionate and love what you do.
Yeah.
Because that drives you.
Yeah.
For me.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. Come from a heart,
Yeah.
as it were. Cool.
Yes, from a hat.
From the hat. Awesome.
From a hat.
Yes. Well, from one Midwestern gal to another, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, that has been another episode of the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And here is to a big, beautiful day on this blue spinning sphere. Thanks, everyone. The original music on this podcast was created by Jesse Case.